God damn, we are back, guys. We got One Piece, chapter 1121 here with us today. My name is Sai, and we are going to be talking about the chapter, breaking it down, and all that good stuff. So with that being said, let's get right to it. All right, so the first thing we have this week to celebrate One Piece's 27th anniversary, we got a color spread of Nami. A giant Nami, posed up around small versions of the Straw Hats. So after spending a good amount of time checking Nami out, there was something that really stood out to me, and that was what was in between Nami's legs. And I'm not joking when I say that, because if you look in between her legs, not only do we see Franky sporting a pretty cool blue outfit, but we also see a blue devil fruit right behind him. And I thought that was really freaking odd. So if you look at the rest of this color spread, you'll notice that there are a plethora of fruits here. We got bananas, watermelons, we got a pineapple, apples, oranges. I think there's even like a parfait. This devil fruit is odd, right? Because this is the only one in the entire color spread, and also it has a design that we have never seen before. I went through the One Piece wiki, looked at all the devil fruits we have in Viver cards, in the story, and this one matches none of them. If I had to compare it to any devil fruit we've seen thus far, I would say it has the same shape and stem as Luffy's devil fruit, but it also has the blue scales that Kaido's devil fruit has. So it's this weird mix, and I'm not too sure what Oda's playing with here. Granted, this could just be a real fruit, and I don't know about it. But I am going down the devil fruit route with this. There are two things, though, two mindsets that I do want to bring up. The first being the fact that this could be something that relates back to Franky, considering this is right behind Franky, right? So for the longest time now, people have been wondering if Franky will ever eat a devil fruit, or if he'll be able to create replicas of devil fruit, sort of like what Vegapunk did here on Agate Island when it comes to the Seraphim and their green blood. Maybe this is foreshadowing that Franky will be able to do just that and give himself some brand new devil fruit abilities without having the downsides of being an actual devil fruit user. Because back in Dressrosa, Franky did say that he did not exactly want to eat the Mera Mera no Mi. So, if he doesn't want to eat a devil fruit, but he still wants the powers of one, I think a hybrid artificial fruit like green blood or this blue blood or blue fruit would be a great mix for that. The second thought train that I went to when I saw this was that it is coming out of Nami's legs. I know, that sounds ridiculous, but I was kind of playing with it. And this does bring back an old theory that has been around since about chapter 80. Ever since Nami joined the crew, back in the East Blue, people have been wondering if a devil fruit would ever spawn from Nami's tangerine trees. And the main reason why that was such a popular theory is because we know that devil fruits can quite literally spawn anywhere. You know, as long as there's a fruit nearby, a devil fruit can take its place. We've seen that happen firsthand with Smiley. The Straw Hats didn't see it, but we, the audience, saw it. And ever since that chapter as well, I always found it kind of odd that the Straw Hats, you know, throughout this entire journey, have never once seen a devil fruit spawn before. And quite honestly, I would find it a little bit weird if that never happens with our crew here. So maybe this is foreshadowing that Nami is, I don't want to say giving birth to a devil fruit because that sounds so odd, but, you know, Nami's tangerine trees gives birth to a devil fruit. I think that's a better way to put it. So now, onto the first page of the actual chapter, we see that Saturn is absolutely locked in. Now that he has landed on the Elbaf giant ship, he is trying to take down whoever he can, and it's not working, brother. You know, Luffy starts off by saying, hey, watch out, guys. Saturn's claws are poisonous. They can do some real damage. So what happens? The giants lift up their shields and they block all of Saturn's attack. Not even a stray claw hits a giant. Not even a giant with no name. The giants all in unison start blocking Saturn's blows, and I kind of feel bad for Saturn. You know, the guy's trying his damn hardest here, and he can't land a single blow. So after realizing that he can't defeat the giants, he turns his attention towards Bonney, because Bonney is currently out of breath. She's trying to gear up for a final attack, but she does need a couple of seconds to get prepared. Saturn sees the opening, he tries to take it, but that is when Luffy knocks his claw out of the way. He then turns to Bonney and says, hey Bonney, You can do this. We can take him down together. And that is exactly what happens. In a beautiful double page spread, we see Bonney going through her memories. She reminisces a little bit about her father, her mother, and even a future that could have been, which I admit was pretty damn sad to see, right? When you hit that bottom right panel where Kuma's hugging Ginny, and then they're also holding up Bonney in the middle, and they're like, hey, Bonney, we're glad you were born. It's like, damn, that really hurts, man. What's cool about that double page spread as well is that while Bonney is telling Saturn that he's caused so much pain in her life, we also see images of Sentomaru and Kizaru as well. And I feel like their addition here makes a lot of sense, right? Because Saturn has also negatively affected their lives as well. If Saturn never went after Vegapunk, Kizaru would probably be here eating pizza. Sentomaru would have his damn day off. Dude, this day is supposed to be Sentomaru's day off, but he got called into action and got beaten black and blue by his best friends. So yeah, like Saturn is a pain in the ass. He has not done anybody here any favors. And now that Bonney has openly stated that, we get Luffy and Bonney together, sending Saturn away for good. Bonney hits him with an attack called, I'm gonna read it right here because I couldn't believe my eyes. She says, liberating Nika punch. And it's just one giant punch. It's essentially a gear 3rd punch, but in gear 5th form. And we see Luffy in the background hitting Saturn with what seems to be a bajillion fists. And I just gotta say it right here, man. I kind of do feel bad for Saturn, as crazy as that sounds. I mean, dude, the guy jumped on the giant ship thinking he would do damage, and this is what happened to him. Bonney and Luffy hit him so hard and so many times that the next page where we see Saturn, he has literal holes punched out of him. Oh my god, his eyes are gone. Well, not gone, but like, we see the white of his eyes. His beard is missing. His claws are torn to shreds, and he's about to fall in the damn ocean. Yes, he's a bad guy, and we shouldn't feel bad for him. But holy crap, brother. How bad did this guy get done? I mean, if we look at the player card, Saturn quite literally has not landed a single blow on Luffy. Go back to all the panels, dude. He's missing every single attack. He's doing nothing. He's done 0 damage to Luffy, 0 damage to the Giants. The most he's done was grab Bonney and throw her to the ground while she was grieving for her father. That is the guy's best feat. Yes, he also stabbed Vegapunk, but it didn't even kill Vegapunk, Vegapunk was still up and walking around. Kizaru had to finish the kill for him. And Saturn, man, I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's dead. I do think we will see him again in the future, but I think his role here on Egghead Island is kaput. I don't think we're going to see him again until we leave this island. And the reason I feel pretty confident in saying that is because if you look at this chapter and last week's chapter, and I think even the chapter before that, you'll notice that Marcus Mars is nowhere to be seen. Marcus Mars got blown away by Luffy, Sanji, Frankie, and Bonney, and the brother still isn't even back, dude. That bird is gone. We also don't see Venus in this chapter, which is quite notable, which granted, I do like the fact that we don't see Venus because it makes Atlas's sacrifice feel worth it. If Venus were to show up right away, I think that would make Atlas's death feel pretty mundane. So I do like that Venus is still being stalled and regenerating up on the Labo phase. So that's all good and dandy. And now, really, the only threats left here on the island, now that Saturn, Mars, and Venus are seemingly dealt with for the time being, are just Jupiter and Warcuti. And I'm gonna be quite honest. Hey, you guys know me. I am a Gorosei defender. But I don't think they can beat Emeth. Emeth still has this trump card he talked about last chapter. We don't see what it is this chapter, but I feel like once he whips it out, once he whips out some Void Century techniques or abilities, I think they're going to be cooked. I mean, maybe I'm crazy, but in my opinion, the Straw Hats pulled out a massive W away from the Gorosei. Of course, the Gorosei are going to be fine. They can regenerate, they can get back up, but they haven't really accomplished what they wanted to here, right? The message is going through pretty much all the way. I mean, Vegapunk finishes his message in this chapter, so the Gorosei failed on that front. They couldn't capture Sun God Nika Luffy. They couldn't capture Robin. As far as the satellites go, the Straw Hats are escaping with Lilith. Like, the only W that the Gorosei have right now is the fact that they have York, Punk records, and the Mother Flame, which is huge, but that's still not everything they wanted. So, as far as Saturn goes though, I guess the big question now is whether or not Saturn can swim. That is a question that has been asked ever since we met the guy. And then that question got brought back up once the rest of the Gorosei showed up here and transformed into their demon modes, and the narrator didn't give us a Devil Fruit model, didn't give us a Devil Fruit descriptor at all, and instead just called them what they are as demons. You know, we have Saturn the Gyuki, Venus the Bakotsu, Warkri the Hyoki. Like, we have all of these different demons and no Devil Fruit descriptors. So that did make people wonder if these guys actually have a Devil Fruit, or are these transformations entirely different? And I feel like once we see the outcome of Saturn landing in the water, we will know the answer. Personally, you know, I'm gonna throw my opinion out there, but I do err on the side that Saturn and the rest of the Gorosei are completely different from any Devil Fruit ability we have seen thus far, and I do think Saturn will be able to swim and survive this attack. The next thing we see after Saturn, though, is the 1000 Sunny. Usopp, Chopper, Jinbei, Brook, Robin, Nami, Zoro, they're all falling from the sky. And it turns out that somebody now has to save the ship. Last chapter, Nami called Sanji and said, hey, you guys need to do something, and now we gotta figure out a plan as to how to get the 1000 Sunny to land safely. Now that the Gorosei have seemingly been dealt with, I would like to assume breaking the 1000 Sunny's fall wouldn't be that big of a deal. Right? I mean, Luffy's still in Gear 5th form. You know, as far as Luffy goes, not even theoretically, but he could literally just turn the ship into rubber, grab it, and then just put it in the ocean, or like put it on the Elbaf ship. Luffy can totally do that. Bonney could probably do that, but granted, you know, she hasn't exactly mastered any Sun God Nika abilities. And then, of course, we do have the giants here, who are like 10, 50 times the size of the 1000 Sunny. So if they see the ship, they can probably just, you know, scoop it out of the air and they're good to go. And not to mention, but we also have a lot of Straw Hats on the crew who have abilities that could even help the fall. I mean, Zoro, right? Just going to Zoro, this is the most absurd one, and then I'll get to more logical ones here in a second. But Zoro versus King. When Zoro was falling off the island of Onigashima, he took his swords, slapped the air, and then propelled himself upwards. He could technically do that with a 1000 Sunny, right? The 1000 Sunny's about to fall, boom, slaps the air, 1000 Sunny's fine. There's also Jinbei. He's a fishman. I'm sure he could control water currents, so he could easily just, you know, do something with water, maybe ease the fall a little bit. And then there's Robin. Robin has, in multiple instances, created giant wings to make things fly for a good 5 seconds. So yeah, I think we will be fine. I'm not super worried about the 1000 Sunny, but, you know, I guess if there was a point of contention, if there was something to worry about in the 1% realm, it would be the 1000 Sunny, you know, because we never know what Oda is going to do here. When it comes to the 1000 Sunny getting damaged, I don't think it would be bad either. Like, let's say, for example, nobody catches the 1000 Sunny, nobody breaks the fall. I don't think that would be the worst thing in the world, because the place we're going to next is Elbaf. Elbaf is most likely the home of Adamwood. If the 1000 Sunny gets damaged, we could repair it with ease. So I really don't think it's that big of a deal, but I am really curious, right? Because like I said, this is the last thing that we really have to worry about. Because by this point of Agate Island, nobody's really giving us chase anymore, right? We do have a lot of random marine ships following us still, but who's commandeering them? Vice Admiral Hound? Vice Admiral Doll, who's a kid? You know, like, these guys can't stop us. The Gorosei failed. Kizaru is still hitting us with a ... Like, nobody's gonna stop the Straw Hats. Like, we are so fine. It is ridiculous. You know, like, all we have to worry about really on the island is Emeth. And Emeth is most likely on a Pedro mission, right? As long as he saves the current day Joy Boy, he doesn't care what happens to himself. So yeah, I think Emeth can hold down the fort for us, even though we are technically off the island. If you look at the panel where the 1000 Sunny is falling, you can't even see the island in the background anymore. You know, you just see the smoke clouds. Like, dude, we are long gone. We are long gone. So I'm gonna go back to the top of this chapter, and I want to tackle Vegapunk's message chronologically and in segments, and you'll see why here in a second. So I'm gonna read it verbatim. So to kick things off this week, Vegapunk says, "A day of awakening is coming, where all the pressing secrets of the Void Century will be uncovered. We know the weapons technology that sank the world's continents, are still in use. That power is out there. So the reason why I wanted to split this up and not just read the whole thing verbatim is because Oda, this time around, and he does this pretty often, but in this chapter, it's the most apparent. But Oda has really thought about how to panel and group these characters. So in this first part right here, while Vegapunk is talking about the ancient weapons, we see two characters who are definitely correlated to ancient weapons. I mean, we have Shirahoshi, who is literally just freaking Poseidon. We have Vivi, who's the queen of a country that houses a poneglyph that leads people to Pluton. But those two characters right there are not what's interesting about this segment. It's the fact that Oda decides to bring in a new reaction. Well, not even a reaction because they don't have Denden Mushis up there, but he brings back an old location, that being Skypiea, because we actually see Upper Yard. We see Conus, and we also see Wiper's group in the background. And it's like, yo, Oda knows what he's doing. Because back in Skypiea, right, we saw Enel and his ship, the Arc Maxim. And what the Arc Maxim did was create an electric ball big enough to destroy all of Upper Yard. And if you go to that panel, it looks eerily similar to what we saw happen to Leloucia. It's the same giant vortex of death. So I do think Oda is drawing that parallel here. And of course, we do know that Uranus is a sky weapon. It hovered above the clouds of Leloucia. So I do think going to a sky island like Skypiea right here does make a lot of sense. I guess my main question now is, how is Oda going to tie in Skypiea? Is this actually meaningful, or is Conus simply a placeholder for whoever will wield Uranus? Because I'm gonna be quite honest, I do not think Conus is going to come back into the story in any meaningful way. Sorry to the 3 Conus fans out there, but I really don't see her coming back and, heralding Uranus on her shoulders. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think this is just Oda saying, hey, don't forget Skypiea, guys. Don't forget about Enel. Don't forget about his crazy skyship that destroyed islands. That happened. All right, so now on to the next part of Vegapunk's message. He says, those with rare and unique racial ancestry are relentlessly persecuted and slaughtered to this very day, due to some mysterious quirk of history. And quite like Vegapunk says, the characters we get in this page are being persecuted. We got Kuma the Buccaneer, who isn't even conscious. We have King the Lunarian, who has most likely been captured by the Marines. And then we also have Pudding, a member of the Three-Eyed Tribe, who is currently captured by Blackbeard. So yeah, Vegapunk's message, it quite literally hits the nail on the head. One thing that I thought was kind of interesting is that King has a lot of bandages on him. We know that after Onigashima happened, King was bandaged up, and that's when he fought Aramaki, and then he lost. And it's like, okay, that's cool and all, but like, did he add more bandages after that? Because a lot of time has passed. Like, these aren't Zoro wounds anymore. These are most likely the wounds he got from fighting Green Bull. But even then, it's like, wait, did they bandage him up? These are a lot more bandages than when we last saw him. I actually went back to the last chapter we saw him, and he only had like a bandage over his head. If you look at King right here, he's got like bandages out the wazoo. So it's like, I don't know what happened to the guy, Like, are these Green Bull wounds? Maybe. But also, one thing I found kind of interesting is that Oda, he silhouetted his background, right? Because as far as Pudding goes, you can tell that she's in the exact same spot we last saw her, which is within Blackbeard's prison cell. But for King, we don't really have any clue, right? Theoretically, he should be with Green Bull. He should be on a Marine ship, but who knows? He could also be in Impel Down, right? Because that is where they send a majority of their pirate prisoners. Or another route is that maybe he's at Marie Joie or being transported to Marie Joie. Because we do know that the government put a hit on him, right? They say it in his panel. They say the world government is offering 100 million berries for any information about Lunarians. So it does seem like the world government wants to capture him alive. So yeah, maybe next time we see Albert, he is up at the Holy Land being experimented on by Saint Saturn, or maybe one of the Holy Knights if there is a scientist up there. Another character that Oda squeezes in between these panels is actually Marco, because he's recalling Whitebeard's words about the Lunarians and how they once lived atop the Red Line. And while that's not anything new, what I did find interesting about Marco's panel, though, is that Miss Bawkins is nowhere to be seen. You know, you would think that as a scientist and as a pirate, she would be interested in what Vegapunk has to say. But she's not present here. And last we saw, she did want to go rescue Weevil. So I guess there is a chance that she's on her way to Impel Down, or maybe chasing down Admiral Green Bull. So now, on to the third part of Vegapunk's message. He says, there will be a reckoning on the day those answers come. You must be on guard to protect yourselves. No matter what happens, I have faith in humanity's capacity for wisdom. I have faith in science. And that is when we see our scientific geniuses front and center. We see Iceberg along with some residents of Water 7. We see Odas, the wizard from Witheria, and we also see Judge and Caesar arguing in their panel, which I thought was pretty funny. So as far as Iceberg goes, of course, he's going to make Water 7 into a floating city, so he has his role to play there. As far as Odas goes, I could easily see him trying to combat the weather, right? If the rising waters are a problem, maybe he'll find a way to get rid of the water because he is like this weather wizard, right? Another thing I could see Odas doing is potentially saving people, because they do have the technology to make sky islands. I mean, Witheria is an artificially made one. It's literally floating on a giant balloon. So who's to say that Odas just doesn't make more of those and brings people who can't escape the rising waters onto them? I think that'd be a great mission for him and the wizards there. And now, as far as Judge and Caesar goes, I think they are the most interesting out of the bunch, because I have no clue what they're gonna do. The last time we saw Caesar and Judge, Caesar was bawling his eyes out at the news that Vegapunk has died. Judge, on the other hand, was right behind Caesar, and he was emotionless. That monster! So I do wonder why they're fighting. Maybe Caesar wants to carry on Vegapunk's will. Maybe Caesar wants to get revenge for Vegapunk because he's so emotional. And then Judge, on the other hand, is like, no, you're an idiot. What are you talking about? I feel like that could be what they're arguing about. Maybe they're even arguing about what to do next, right? Because when you think about the goal of Neo-Mads, they never really had one. They came together because of their hatred for Vegapunk, but now that he's gone, what is there to accomplish, right? Are they going to try to supersede Vegapunk and uncover the Void Sentry that Vegapunk couldn't do himself? Will they perhaps try to create a new life form better than the Seraphim, since that is Vegapunk's, ultimate form of humanity? I think there's a lot of ways that Neo-Mads could go. They definitely have the most potential. So yeah, I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this. What do you think Caesar and Judge are going to do next? Will they uncover the Void Sentry? Will they go after ancient weapons? Or no, do you think they'll just sit on the side and improve their own scientific weaponry? I would love to hear all your thoughts about them down below. So now, on to the final parts of Reaction Piece. And I gotta admit, man, Reaction Piece is looking pretty damn good this week, right? We're getting all the big characters showing up. Vegapunk goes on and says, unfortunately though, there's no guarantee that the One Piece will be found by someone Joy Boy would want. There's no stopping this now. The fate of this world will be decided by whoever finds it. It all depends on who finds the One Piece. And we get a beautiful double-page spread of all the heavy hitters in the final race. We got Shanks, Luffy, Blackbeard, Buggy, all the Yonko right there. We got a Kainu, Dragon, Emu, Kobe, Kuzan, Garling, Sabo, and one mystery character on that final page. And goddamn, is this not hype? So, just reeling it back a little bit, I want to tackle Vegapunk's message here first, because Vegapunk seemingly drops a major hint as to what the One Piece actually is. Because in my opinion, by saying the fate of this world will be decided by whoever finds it, it means that whatever's there can either combat the ancient weapons, stop the world from sinking, or it can change reality as we know it. Like, there's so many things with this, and it's so funny because, going back to 27 years ago, when we first heard about the One Piece, it's like, oh, fame, wealth, power, treasure, it's all over there in Laugh Tale, that's great and dandy. And then we go on, and then we come to find out that whatever is at Laugh Tale is a giant joke. But now Vegapunk's adding another layer to it by saying, hey, the fate of the world goes to whoever can find Laugh-Tale and find the One Piece. And that is just absolutely insane to think about. And, you know, me, like everybody else, we're all trying to figure out what is it. And one giant joke that I've been seeing people make is that the One Piece is a giant drain plug. You know, I can't tell if people are being serious when they say that or not, but in a weird way, it kind of makes sense, right? Because if it's a drain plug, you pull it and then all the water rushes to it, and then boom, you saved the world. You know, the fate of the world rested in your hands, and with those hands, you pulled the drain plug. And the thing is that kind of fits the laughing narrative, right? If I saw a giant drain plug at the end of my journey, I would laugh too. So maybe it's that, but I don't think so. Like, I really don't know. But I do love the goofy ideas people are coming up with. And we have to remember too, right? Like, whatever Roger found at Laugh-Tale, they said that they were too early for it. So if it was a drain plug or something that could stop the rising waters, it would make sense as to why they said they were too early. Because 20 years ago, the waters have not risen. So yeah, maybe it's multifaceted there. But I would love to hear what you guys have to say about that. What do you think the One Piece is? Do you agree that it's a giant drain plug? Or no, do you think that it might be another ancient weapon? Because I think that's a pretty good idea too, right? There are 3 ancient weapons here that could destroy the world. Well, how do you stop that? How do you combat it? With the bigger ancient weapon, right? So I guess that could be the case. So as far as the characters we see here, right? We got all the major factions coming into play. I'm gonna tackle it from right to left as God intended it. So the first character to talk about is Shanks and the Red Hair Pirates. Shanks has not exactly been taking this news too well. He is drunk out of his mind, and he's also sailing somewhere. So as far as why Shanks is drinking, I think it's simply because he's having a little bit of Roger trauma, for lack of a better term, right? Because we have to remember that when Roger came back from Laugh-Tale, he told Shanks something in private. We don't know what they talked about, but after that conversation, Shanks was crying his eyes out. Buggy approached Shanks afterwards, and he said, "Hey Shanks, let's go after the One Piece together." And Shanks told him no. Shanks said that he didn't want to find it right now. So now that the One Piece is finally coming full center, right now that the Red Hair Pirates and so many other people have to go after it, I could see why Shanks would be in his feelings and why he's drinking away the pain. As far as where Shanks is going right now, I have no clue. There is a good chance that he has Kid's 3 road poneglyphs and he just has to find the man marked by flames. So maybe he's going to them. Or on the opposite end, there is a chance that he could just be going straight after Blackbeard, because we do know that Shanks has been looking for Blackbeard for quite some time now. He's the whole reason why Shanks went to Wano in the first place. He went there simply because he thought Blackbeard was gonna show up. And then guess what? When he was fighting Kid, he was wondering about where Blackbeard was at as well. So I wouldn't be super shocked if he might be on his way to Hachinosu, or maybe he's just sailing around trying to pinpoint Blackbeard's location. Because Blackbeard, the next character we gotta talk about, is not at Hachinosu. The Pirates of Hachinosu are waiting for this guy, you know? They say, "All right, Vegapunk, I like where this message is going. Why isn't Commodore Teach back yet? We can't wait much longer." Like, dude, these guys are ready to go, but Blackbeard still is not home, which I think is kind of interesting when you really think about it, because last we saw, Blackbeard just beat Law, and he was with Van Augur. Van Augur left Blackbeard with Canary Devon, and then went to Egghead Island to pick up Caribou, and to also tap Saint Saturn so that Devon can copy him at a later date. I'm not too sure what Blackbeard is up to. You know, for all we know, he could be on his way to the Holy Land to disguise himself as Saint Saturn, which could be pretty plausible, right? Saint Saturn is the one Gorosei member that has taken the most immense beating, so maybe Saturn doesn't survive this in a hypothetical sense, and maybe Devon takes his place and walks up to the Holy Land. Maybe they could get something there. Or perhaps, now that they have Caribou, maybe he's spilling the beans about the ancient weapons, and that is where Teach is heading. Maybe Blackbeard is on his way to Fishman Island to kidnap Shirahoshi. Or maybe he's on his way to Wano to break down the walls with his Gura no Mi and release the ancient weapon Pluton. I think all three of those options are very, very, very viable. And if that is what Blackbeard is planning to do, I think we're going to see that pretty damn soon. Simply because Van Augur exists. This guy is a maniac, dude. Over here teleporting from island to island. So now, the next group to talk about is Buggy's group, the Cross Guild. And one thing I've been seeing people say online is that this final page makes Mihawk look really bad. And I don't see it, brother. I mean, they're like, hey, Shanks is here, Luffy's here, Blackbeard's here, Buggy's here. All these strong characters are here, like Garland, Kobe, Akainu Dragon. But where's Mihawk? You know, why is Mihawk not here? And I think it makes a lot of sense why he's not here, right? Like, Mihawk doesn't exactly want to go after the One Piece. Mihawk doesn't exactly have any real ambitions right now. You know, Mihawk was all about living a peaceful life in his gothic castle. You know, he never wanted to be here. So I think it makes sense as to why he's not included. Let the man live in retirement in peace. That is how I feel about it. But as far as Cross Guild goes, they are still located within Empty Bluffs Island. Despite having their brand new Yonko ship, the Big Top Blaster, being recently finished, they're still just chilling, listening to this message. And I think this could be a mistake, because we do have to remember that last time we saw Marine HQ, back during the Reverie flashback, the Marines have confirmed that Empty Bluffs Island is where Crocodile is stationed at. So I feel like if they stay here for too long, they will eventually run into a lot of Marine resistance, right? Because the Marines have talked about how they want to get rid of Cross Guild. That is what Sengoku and Suda were talking about before Garp left to Hachinosu. And guess what happened after that? Sengoku and Suda ended up hopping on a ship and left. We don't know where they're going. Are they going to Hachinosu? Are they going to Empty Bluffs Island? I think we're going to find out pretty damn soon. So the next group we get are the Marines, and we don't know who says it. It could just be absolute fodder, but one of the Marines say, hey, there's no way we'll just stand by after this message. Let's go find the One Piece first. What? Let's go find the One Piece? Are these guys kidding? That's crazy. I mean, I'm all about it. I think if the Marines joined the race to find the One Piece, it would make things really, really interesting. Because there is that one interview where Oda essentially stated that Akainu could find the One Piece within a year. So now that there's a potential that the Marines could join in on this race, I kind of want to put that to the test, you know? Yo, send Sakazuki poneglyph hunting. I want to see what this guy can do. Outside of that, though, I would love to see the Marines actually mobilize towards a cause, because throughout the entire series, the Marines have been pretty reactionary, right? Something happens, boom, the Marines are showing up. Something happens, boom, the Marines show up. I want to see what the Marines are going to be like if they actively pursued the poneglyphs. I want to see these guys go to Whole Cake Island, go to Wano, go to Zou and Zunisha. You know, I want to see what they're all about, and I think this would be a really great way to deploy the admirals, right? You got 3 admirals, you got 3 known poneglyphs, send them, you know, send them out, dude. Yeah, I'm super excited to see how Akainu responds to all of this, because we have to keep in mind, these are just fodder Marines. No faces, no names, no nothing. So for all we know, they could say this to Sakazuki, and Sakazuki would absolutely destroy these guys with his lava powers. That is a possibility. So yeah, we do have to keep that in mind here. But I do feel like Sakazuki would be on board with it. And hey, if the world government joins in on the race and they try to gatekeep the One Piece, I bet they would also deploy Marines to guard the poneglyphs, right? Let's say the world government and Emu are like, hey, we can't let these guys find it. You guys, you know, station yourselves and guard the 4th or 3rd road poneglyph, or guard Laughtail. I think that right there would also be a really interesting plot development. So now, let me see here. We got Shanks, Luffy, Blackbeard, Buggy, talk about the Marines. Revolutionaries. Yeah, revolutionaries are a thing here. We got Dragon and Sabo in that final page. So when it comes to these guys, I don't really think they're going to do anything too unexpected. Maybe they do go for an ancient weapon, but I do think that they will just stick to their original plan and just try to take down the Holy Knights and or the Celestial Dragons. Because we do have to remember that they are a main reason as to why the world is sinking. If you don't want the world to sink, yes, you could find a drain plug and, you know, get rid of the water, or You could just get rid of the people bringing the water down. So yeah, I think they're just going to stick with their original plan, but, you know, who knows? Maybe they'll run into the man marked by flames, maybe they'll run into an ancient weapon. We're not exactly sure what these guys are going to do yet. And it doesn't help that every time we see the revs, we get hit with a ... right? You know, what are these guys doing? We got no clue. They're giving us no hints over here. Unlike Kobe's group, which is the next character I want to talk about. So Kobe. Helmeppo was talking about the One Piece. You know, he was like, hey, underwater cities, this could be related to the One Piece. You know, Kobe, he's recovering. He's waiting for Captain Drake to give them some orders. So I think he could make some pretty big money moves here. As far as what he's going to do, I feel like he's just going to run it back and try to save Garp. I feel like that is the straightforward and simple answer for Kobe. You know, he could go around saving civilians, but I don't think he'll be able to do that knowing that his mentor and essentially his adoptive father is being held hostage by one of the worst pirates in the world. So I could see Kobe going after Blackbeard yet again, but if he doesn't get a glow up, if he doesn't get back up, then nothing's going to change, right? It's nice to think that Kobe's going to try to save Garp, but realistically, Kobe gets stopped at like Katarina Devon, right? He gets stopped at like Vasco Shot or Avalo Pizarro or Shiryu, right? There's no way he's touching Blackbeard. So I feel like he needs help, whether that's from the Marines, whether that's from Sengoku and Sudo, no clue yet. But I do want to hear what you guys have to say about Kobe. What do you guys think Kobe is going to do now? So as far as Kuzan goes, I thought he was a really interesting addition because his captain is right above him. Right, you know, you got Blackbeard up here with the Yonko, and then right below him, you literally have Kuzan. I think this just goes to show that Kuzan does indeed have his own game plan in mind. I mean, hell, even going back to the Kuzan flashback where he joined the Blackbeard Pirates, Blackbeard acknowledged that Kuzan has his own goals, and that most of the Blackbeard Pirates have their own goals. So yeah, I think Kuzan making an appearance here just goes to show that Kuzan can quite literally leave the Blackbeard Pirates at the drop of a hat. You know, whenever it's convenient for Kuzan or whenever his goal is in sight, he's definitely just gonna stab Blackbeard in the back. And I'm sure Blackbeard knows that too, right? Blackbeard's not stupid. He knows that Kuzan eventually is going to leave. So yeah, I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to go down. And now the last two characters I want to talk about, we got Garling and Mystery Swordsman A. So Garling makes sense, right? Captain of the Holy Knights, the supreme leader. Yep, he's one of the final villains. But what about the other guy, right? We see this mysterious figure holding a sword with a guard on the handle. And it's like, who is this, right? Oda introducing new characters in the final saga? Who could this be? Well, I've seen a lot of theories. And personally, what I'm leaning towards right now is that this is Shanks' brother. I think it's Figarland. So going back to the silhouettes we got from Dragon, there was one silhouette there that looked like Shanks. It had the same cape. It had the sword with the guard. I think it even had the same hairstyle as Shanks. You know, it got so bad that people thought it was literally just Shanks. But we do have to remember that back at Marineford, Oda gave an interview where he redacted his answer when someone asked him about Shanks having a brother. So I think that was a hint all along that Shanks has a relative that was left up at the Holy Land, and I do think this is that character. It fits the silhouette that we saw in Dragon's Holy Knight imagery. It fits the sword scheme of Garling, Shanks, and Roger, which people thought that was odd too, but keep in mind, when it comes to families in One Piece, Oda has this running thematic where, you know, fathers, adoptive fathers, and all this family stuff, they all have one commonality. And I do believe that for Shanks, Roger, and Garling, it is the sword with the guard, because all three of them have it. So now that we're adding a fourth character with a guard as well, I think this guy is also related. So as far as this character goes, I do think, even if I'm wrong about the Garland connection, I do think that he is a part of the Holy Knights. Because if you go back to when we saw Emu in the flower room, there was a notable silhouette in that room taking a knee. That character had a cloak, and they also had a sword with the guard. I think this is that character through and through, and I am oh so curious to see what Oda is hiding here. But hey, with that being said, thank you guys so much for joining me on this little One Piece adventure. I really freaking appreciate it. Let me know what you guys thought about this chapter down below. In your opinion, was this a chapter truly worthy of the 27th anniversary? And who do you think this mysterious silhouette actually is? I would love to hear all of those thoughts down below, and I will catch you guys next time. My name is Sai, and I'm signing out. Peace.